Welcome to the Girls Marketing Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things marketing and the perfect backing track to your workday. Every week, we get up close and personal with marketers revolutionising the industry so you can learn from the best in the game. From the latest marketing trends to building a successful marketing career, no topic is off limits. At Girls in Marketing, we champion progress, inspire change, and encourage women to take the marketing world by storm. Check out our website and membership to learn more and get involved, as we'd love to welcome you to our inner circle. Right, let's dive into another episode together. Hello and welcome back to the Girls in Marketing podcast. Today we're going to be talking all about personal branding. Is it overrated or is it essential? Now, that bodes the first question to all of you guys. Do we think personal branding is essential or overrated?
I think essential.
I think neither.
I agree with Amy. I don't know. Neither.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Let's expand.
I feel like neither, like you've got to pick.
I can't because I don't think it falls into either category. I don't think I could sit here hand on heart and say I think it's overrated because I don't, but I equally wouldn't say I think it's essential. In the sense of what, as a caveat to that, I would say that I don't think personal branding in a particular, like in a box sense is essential. I think having some sort of personal brand in a very loose sense is important, but I think like kind of adhering to like a personal brand in maybe the typical having a really active LinkedIn profile kind of sense isn't essential. In the sense that I think you can be really successful without it. Do I think that it can be really beneficial for your career and something that you should invest time in if you're interested in doing so and have the time to do so and know the, kind of what your objective is with it and what you have to say? Definitely worth doing, but I don't think I could say it was one or the other.
Fair enough.
Why do you think it's essential?
Mainly because I don't think it's overrated. So I just picked essential. But I do think, again, like you said, Amy, it's essential in a sense of like some sort of personal branding. Like it doesn't have to be like you post on LinkedIn like X amount of times a week. It can be like TikTok or like some sort of like digital portfolio that shows your skills. It's always interesting when like social media managers don't really have like a page, like a digital portfolio, because I think that's like, for me anyway, somewhere that I can always like experiment with, or like, because obviously I manage like Girls in Marketing socials, like if I think this might not actually land with the audience, but I know from a marketing perspective, like my personal audience is pretty similar to Girls in Marketing as a demographic, I sometimes think I'm going to test it out from my channels, and therefore growing my personal brand in that sense has been beneficial to both me to experiment with stuff, but also for Girls in Marketing because it's not like random stuff that I've like just thought of, like things that I'm posting have been like backed up and like I know should work. So I think that's when it like benefits both like the person and the employer. But yeah, I definitely think it's like obviously grown so much over the past like however many years, and like LinkedIn has been like a huge driver in that. Obviously LinkedIn recently have hit like 1 billion users, I think it is, and I can only see that growing. Like LinkedIn, like so many people post on there now, and I think when you think personal branding you do usually think LinkedIn, don't you? But yeah, you grow your personal brand on TikTok, don't you, Becky? So
I do.
What do you think about that?
Although, to be fair, when I started it, I didn't do it to build a personal brand. I did it to learn. I was in an entry-level marketing job that didn't use platforms like TikTok or didn't use Instagram Reels and things like that. So I did it to learn more about short-form content and SEO and writing captions and things. And then I would say it did bring me opportunities because that's how I connected with Liv. But yeah, I wouldn't say I put too much focus on it. I just kind of share the day-to-day. But I do think it's important, and I do think it can bring good opportunities, and I think it's nice to have a presence and connect with other people in your industry and lift each other up, as cringe as that might sound.
Yeah.
But I do think LinkedIn is important, and I agree, like when I think of personal branding, I build mine on TikTok, but I do automatically go to LinkedIn because I think that's the dominant one now.
Do you have that burning desire to create a website for a new idea but don't have any coding experience? Don't worry, I've got you. Hostinger is a sponsor of today's episode, and they have created an AI website builder tool allowing anyone who wants to take their idea online to do so with zero coding skills. Just write 3 sentences to sum up what you're looking for, and Hostinger does the rest. The AI even offers personalized suggestions on layout, design, and content. Bring your new idea to life by heading to hostinger.com/girlsinmarketing and use the exclusive code girlsinmarketing for 10% off your plan. What's stopping you?
It is interesting though. I actually did like a community kind of research. So I've got some questions that I've asked the community that I want you guys to guess the answers to. So if you guys listening aren't following us on Instagram, make sure you do, because that also helps me out. But also, like, you can get involved with polls and stuff that we do on Instagram, because we want to start doing more of these and getting you guys involved. So the first question was to our audience: are you currently trying to build your personal brand? So the options were yes, thinking about it, or no. How many percentage do you think said yes?
I feel like it's a weird one with Instagram, because obviously the people who voted are on Instagram, and I think our audience differs quite a bit on. I'm trying to think of like what our audience is thinking. It differs quite a lot on LinkedIn versus Instagram. So I feel like it's lower than I initially thought, because I was thinking maybe like 80 to 90% originally, like when you first said that. But then because it's on Instagram, I'm thinking maybe the people on Instagram aren't. So I reckon I'm going to go for like, I don't know, maybe like 50% or like 55. Let's go with 55. I'll go with 55.
I'm going to go for like 63.
Oh, that's specific.
Yeah, kind of similar to Liv. I think my mind went quite high. So I would say, but then again, I do think that if they are people who are engaging with our content, it might be that they've been following us for quite a while, and it is something that we talk quite a lot about. They might have listened to the podcast before, so maybe they're quite aware of personal brand. I'm going to go 65%. Said yes.
Okay, guess who's closest? Amy? 67% of people said they are trying to build their personal brand. Thinking about it, 28%, and no, I'm not trying to build my personal brand. That was 5% of people, which was interesting because, again, like 67% was higher than I thought. And again, shows like the amount of people in the space trying to build a personal brand who also were interested in marketing at some capacity. Have you faced any judgment with personal branding? So guess what the percentage of people said yes and what percentage said no.
I think that's probably quite high. I think 80% plus would have said yes.
Yeah, I reckon similar. Like, I'll maybe go a bit lower, like 70%, just because you said 80.
I mean, I am also thinking the same, but I'll go lower again and say 67.
Okay, so the amount of people that said yes was 57%.
Oh,
It was lower than I actually thought. I thought it'd be higher. And no, 43%. I did also ask on this, like, a question box about, like, why have you faced judgment, if you've got any examples. So some people, it was kind of the expected answers. Some people said it was cringe. Someone actually said that an old colleague said to her that she loved the sound of her own voice. And then it made me laugh because she put ... She was right.
Fair enough.
And then someone else said, people said that I think I'm an influencer. So I feel like that's just like standard things you just have to kind of ignore and get over and accept when you build your personal brand. Have you been offered extra opportunities as a result of building your personal brand? So the options were obviously yes or not yet. What percentage do you think said yes?
I reckon probably, again, I don't know, because there is a lot of opportunities with personal branding. So I feel like people are going to say yes, but then I'm also like, I'm not sure who's got to this point. So I'm also not sure who would vote. So maybe let's just go for like 65%, I'd say.
Yeah, I think maybe about 55%.
I'm going to go 46.
42% said yes. I also think it depends on what you class as an extra opportunity as well, because it could be like you might have connected with someone as a result of building your personal brand, and that's technically an extra opportunity because they might have access to someone else and you might not have thought like that is a connection.
It's how you define it, I suppose. Isn't
So yeah, I think technically it's a bit more. And then we asked the guys on Instagram to describe their personal branding in one word, and the responses again was very interesting. Chaotic. There was a few chaotic ones. I think mine's quite chaotic, to be honest. Ambitious, magical, fresh, quirky, all them kind of things. So
okay, I like that.
I think it was really good. And yeah, it just shows like the different ranges of people who are trying to build a personal brand, and also experiences that people have got with that. How would you guys describe your personal brand in one word? Put you on the spot.
At present, non-existent for me. I feel like I've not really been doing all that much on building my personal brand at the moment. I feel like
just focusing on the baby, the child,
I mean,
which is fine.
That's a bit of a focus for me at the minute. But I think though, I feel like in me not having a focus on my personal brand in a way that is my personal brand, in the weirdest sense that I don't feel like it would be authentic for me right now in the place that I'm in my life at the moment, to be like really falsely peddling this impression that I'm like really active on LinkedIn and things, when actually like I'm not. I've taken a bit of time away from kind of my, my full-time role at Girls in Marketing to, kind of focus on just having had a baby and stuff. And obviously those things will all return. But I think that that's the most authentic way that I can represent my personal brand, is just kind of not really having one at the moment. And I think that if I was to do anything else, it would be really inauthentic. And I think that's one of the worst things that you can be with trying to build a personal brand. So yeah, mine's kind of not happening at the minute.
But that's a thing for people. Like I think the only reason that I have a bit of an issue with personal branding is that pressure that I think it's come about in the last few years, because I remember when I started out full time, there was not this sort of pressure for building a personal brand.
No,
so I think definitely like the pandemic and all of that, and like everyone going a lot more online has played a massive role in that, because that 6-7 years ago, it didn't exist. Like people didn't say you should be doing personal branding or not. But I think what you said is really interesting, because actually if you're not at the point in your life where really you have the time to be doing it, or the resources or the energy to be doing any of that sort of thing, then you shouldn't have to. And it's not about having to, it's about wanting to. And I think there's so many people that talk about it, and it's almost kind of like it's overdone to an extent, because that then puts pressure on people who are just starting out in the industry. And don't get me wrong, I think it's super important. And I do think that having a personal brand, you do get extra opportunities, don't get me wrong. And I'm not someone who's going to say don't do it, but I think it's circumstantial. And if you're in a position where you don't want to, or you will in future, then that's fine as well. If you're someone who is traveling at the moment, you don't have to, or like you've just had a baby, you don't have to. Like it's not about anything, it should be authentic, and that is, I think, the most important thing.
Definitely.
No, 100%. And I think it was last year, I did a post about, it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek post, because it was like 5 things I learned from Harry Styles' Love on Tour, and then it was like ... and then like you had to press like see more to go, and I was like, nothing. I didn't think about marketing, and that's fine. And I think so many times there's like these like really like small connections of like, I went here and I learned this massive life lesson. It's like, you don't have to find 5 things about marketing in everything that you do, or like learn a million lessons for LinkedIn. Everything that you do, like not everything's like a life lesson, and like that's okay. So many times on LinkedIn there's these like massive like dramatic stories that you're thinking like, surely this never happened, like come on. So I think that's again where the pressure comes from, because like them really dramatic posts, or like them posts that like go viral, are usually the ones that are like dramatic, extreme, and sometimes for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to, we talk about this all the time, it comes down to what you're using your personal brand for. If you're looking for a new role, if you're looking to get some extra opportunities alongside your full-time role, if you just genuinely want to meet more people within a certain industry, if you want to reach out for people to, gain insights into something that you want to explore as a career. There's so many ways that you can kind of use a personal brand to your benefit, but I think it all comes down to being authentic, doesn't it? And like not just sharing things for the sake of it. Like I can't bear that. It's like everything becomes saturated at some point. And I think that particularly LinkedIn, I'm speaking about now, does get really saturated just with kind of similar types of posts, people posting the things that they think others want to read. And I think that the most, engaged posts, the ones that get the most engagement, that get people commenting, reading, laughing, like thinking, whatever, are the ones that are that authentic kind of, original thought. So I think it's thinking about what actually you want to use your personal brand for and trying to do that. And like you said, Liv, if there's nothing really that you've got to say at the minute, then just don't.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll be honest, I do find occasionally LinkedIn to be quite difficult to navigate for me anyway. I think because I started with TikTok and that is genuinely just what I'm doing and what I'm eating and whatever, things like that. I think I put a lot of pressure on LinkedIn and overthink it a lot because I think of it as like more corporate and more professional. So for me, I would describe my personal brand as turbulent because if I'm busy, if I'd rather go to the gym, if I'd rather focus on other things, I'm not going to post it and that's fine. Like I'd rather just go with the flow. But I do think LinkedIn sometimes for me, it's just too overwhelming.
It's a lot. It's a lot of people building personal brands. That's what it is. Yeah. And I think that's why it's overwhelming because it's like everyone speaking into the noise. Whereas, I spoke to someone recently and we said like the first step to building your personal brand is just like actually just consuming content. Like stop worrying about what can I post or what can I say or what are these 5 lessons. Instead, just like start building a network of people. Start allowing people to see you and like to know you, because after all, if that's like your main objective, then that should be the case. Sometimes when I'm not posting on LinkedIn, I'm still looking at posts, I'm still engaging with posts because I enjoy consuming people's content. Whereas I think if you focus so much on the posting, that's where the pressure comes from. So instead focus on, okay, how can I continue like for this to be a benefit of me? Because I seen a stat recently that said 70% of hiring managers look for a strong personal brand when hiring, which again, really interesting stat. But equally, that's why I think, we said, is it essential or is it overrated? I wouldn't say it's like totally essential, but I do think if 70% of hiring managers are looking for a personal brand or a strong personal brand, then actually if you've not got a personal brand, are you like falling behind? Are you lagging? Like potentially. But then I think it's sometimes about what results can you get? It's not always about a strong personal brand. You could have someone who's got an amazing personal brand, but doesn't have the results and the stats and the figures that someone who doesn't have a personal brand. And ultimately, when it comes to that decision of, do we go with this person who has a really strong personal brand, but no results and no, nothing like that? Or do we go with someone who doesn't, but, has all those stats? The hiring manager is going to go for that person who doesn't have a personal brand. So I don't think that it's one of those decisions where it's like, okay, well, because they've got it, we're going to go for them. But equally, I think you need to consider when you are looking for extra opportunities and stuff that it could be a decision and it could be something that they are considering. When I started my journey with Girls in Marketing as a business, like many of you, I was passionate about marketing, but there was so much I didn't know, especially the legal aspects involved in starting and running a business. One key area I wish I'd understood from the start is professional indemnity insurance. It's something many of us overlook, but it's crucial for anyone in a consultancy or service-based profession. So, what is professional indemnity insurance? It's a type of insurance that protects you if a client alleges that you've made a mistake, given poor advice, or been negligent in some aspect of your work that results in a financial loss or reputational damage to them. Professional indemnity is not just helpful, it's essential. It's about protecting your hard work, your reputation, and your financial well-being. Kingsbridge Insurance has sponsored this episode of the podcast because they understand the challenges that we face and provide peace of mind when we need to focus on what we do best. So, if you're a freelancer, small business, or consultant and interested in learning more, you can visit the Kingsbridge website by going to kingsbridge.co.uk. Now, let's get back into the episode.
When you think of examples of like personal brands that have been really strong, one that I always think of is Steven Bartlett. So obviously I feel like Steven Bartlett was like the OG of personal branding. Like he like was way ahead of the curve. He's obviously built his personal brand massively. He's obviously got the podcast, Diary of a CEO. And interestingly, when you talk about like using branded account versus personal accounts, interestingly, he posts all Diary of a CEO content on his personal accounts rather than Diary of a CEO accounts. So if you look at like Diary of a CEO's LinkedIn, or like, I don't know even if they have a TikTok, like it's mainly all on Steven's personal accounts because it seems to like resonate more. And I think that's so interesting that they do that, because like it just shows that people are listening more to personal accounts, personal stories. People want to hear from people. So it just shows that like Steven Bartlett is resonating more than Diary of a CEO. And I think that's so interesting. So again, in that sense, Steven Bartlett is a perfect example of personal branding, what it can do, how like what you can achieve. Obviously he's on Dragon's Den now, like he's massive. So like I think Steven Bartlett is a great example. Obviously you might not want to go to the same level as Steven Bartlett, or you might not think you can. But yeah, it's a great example, and like there's loads of like different examples of people who've grown the personal brand, even on like a smaller sense. And yeah, I definitely think there's huge power in like CEOs and like founders using a personal brand to like their benefit and like using it to tell their story.
Yeah, definitely. I think more and more brands are using kind of like the figureheads of their companies and their personal brands to grow the brand and stuff. But I think that on the flip side, a lot can be said for, you know, employees from organisations building their personal brands, but not necessarily in any way intentionally to the benefit of the organisation. Obviously, it can have a really positive like implication for the organisation that they work for, because, you know, if someone's growing their personal brand, it can, as a result, raise awareness of the brand that they work for. You know, they may just choose to talk about their workplace, whether it's talking about the products or just talking about like their positive experiences of working there. So it could be that they become a really good advocate for you kind of hiring more people to the company because they show it as a great place to work. But equally, I think that if you're listening to this podcast now and you're thinking, I really would like to build my personal brand, but I don't want it to be tied to where I work for currently, you can still do that without actually talking specifically about the workplace, and just kind of more generally speak about, you know, the work that you do, the learnings that you've made as a marketer and things like that. So it doesn't have to be tied to where you work. And I think that if your intention, again, coming back to always thinking about the purpose of building your personal brand, if your intention is to go on and potentially move somewhere else, secure a new job, then I would probably steer away from talking too much about where you work. But equally, you know, it's entirely your decision. And I think that most employers would see the benefit of you doing that and would be supportive, although I know that's not always the case.
And that's a wrap on another team episode. Before you forget, we'd love to make this a two-way conversation. Feel free to share your opinions on this episode with us on social media by tagging Girls in Marketing. If you did enjoy listening to our team chat about marketing, please follow and leave a review of the podcast so we can continue to grow and share more episodes like this one. Your support really does go a long way. We'll be back next week with another amazing episode, but until then, join in the conversation on social media. See you next week.